Reality and hallucination are seen as two opposing perceptions of the world around, one with a more grounded connotation, and the other as a delusion against the proper experience. The flaw in this relationship is that reality is reconstructed as a hallucination, neither accurately portraying any opposing perception. They are synonyms. It is far better understood in terms of lands and texturescapes. For example, mathematicians see the reality hallucination through numberland. These numbers are non existent anywhere but the texturescape they have applied to their observation of the land. To teach and believe in mathematics is to share in the numberland's perception of a hallucinatory sense of reality. They will say, equations account for this phenomena, these exponents illustrate that phenomena. A texturescape is the application of texture over the land, much like the art style a painter chooses to draw in. The biologist looks at a tree and sees its relation to the ecosystem. The photographer sees the tree for its beauty, the carpenter for its quality of wood, just as the scientist in physics land applies the texturescape of various laws, theorems, and models to explain the observable world and the forces at play. The religious in spirit land applies the texturescapes of their various dogmas, revelations, and scriptures to explain the observable world around and the forces at play. Suppose the entire population all moved in the same land, applying the same general texturescapes that constitutes their approach or understanding of reality hallucination. There would be no sense of being wrong. There are no alternative textures to apply, no other lands to be lost in. There is no contrast with which to refute that model of reality hallucination. The issue that arises is the idea of reality needing to be shared, creating a rift in those who do not share such reality, and then labeling them as delusional, saying that they are seeing only in hallucinations. All people must believe in math, physics, thermodynamics, gravity, chemistry, in the same way so that reality can be reinforced. A shared texturescape, the art style of imaginatory ontology. Yet all the explanations occur entirely mentally or hallucinatory, numberland and calculation land and particle land. The texture of gravity is applied as a fundamental force of the universe. It is hallucinated as a bending of space and time, and apparently an all-attracting force related to the mass of an object and the distance of one object to another. Thus, all planets are kept in motion by gravity, and all objects on Earth are forced down. Such a texturescape relies on the hallucination of numberland. Another texturescape, which accounts for far greater phenomena and does away with the delusion of numbers, is simply that the force described as gravity is a byproduct of electromagnetism, not a separate force itself, nor a weak magnetic force, but related to electromagnetism directly. The magnetic field of an object that is stronger attracts things to itself. The creation of a vortex within an EM field allows for a temporary separation from the larger EM field of the Earth. An insect uses its wings to generate a vortex, giving the insect an isolated EM field from which it can then propel itself in any direction. The vortex always surrounding it. Stroboscopic imaging confirms the vortex is generated by the wings. Plants and fungus can grow in negative gravitropism, that is to say, upwards against gravity. They generate their own EM field, which provides a sort of bubble against the greater field of the Earth. Losing the ability to sustain the EM field, and the plant sags back down to the ground. It is easy to call it an anti-gravity field, but that would be redundant, as gravity is not the proper force to describe, and so anti-gravity is not appropriate either. It is only useful to use the word gravity in a colloquial way to reference the attracting force of EM fields. A bird also creates a vortex when it flies. It is the vortex which allows the attraction of gravity to be suspended and move more freely in its own field, provided it can flap its wings to generate a force to move the field with it. Birds that fly in a flock, or fish in a school, generate a group vortex that encompasses all of them, allowing them to share in sense together, moving and flying as one. Their movements are not only coordinated because of this group vortex EM field, but they can move faster, more agilely, and precisely. It is due to the vortex being stronger, which means less attraction to the Earth's field. Think of being in a moving car at a constant rate. The barrier of the car allows for you to toss a ball up and have it fall back down on your hand rather than hitting the back window. The vortex EM field operates like that, a bubble or barrier of isolated inertia, effectively a temporary suspension from the attracting force of Earth's EM field, what we call gravity. Planes and helicopters do this as well, generating a vortex that allows for the propulsion system to move the vehicle. It is why electrical storms and anomalies are so dangerous to fly through. The vortex can be disrupted and the attraction brings them down. It is why half of flying is simply through the hopes and prayers of the passengers to strengthen the field against such disruptions. Speaking of storms, these also create vortexes. Some are so strong that animals can be lifted into the sky and rain down, or a vortex from a tornado able to lift a cow or a building. The EM field is isolated and the high winds move the objects or animals through its field. EM attraction is not just an up and down force, it's every direction. Two boats in the open sea colliding, the serendipity of people finding each other. For humans, the heart is the main generator of the EM field. When the heart begins to fail or is depressed, the body sags much like a plant. When the heart is full and strong, they are lightweight, almost gliding along. To follow the heart is to follow the electromagnetic path of one's true desires and intentions. The sages speak of levitation, to generate such a strong vortex that the body can temporarily suspend its attraction to Earth's field. So which model of gravity is reality and which is hallucination? Neither? Both? Does it matter? Breaking down the rigid texturescapes of science land and numberland, one can apply new texturescapes, or even exist with none. No barriers or walls, allowing for the full fantasia of dancing brooms and ribbons of colors that fly around like dragons in and through the pillars, the waltz of stars in the night sky, and the rolling, flowing, waving, tumbling horizon with its hills of bouncing topography and the maps of shifting islands. But then again, I live in Wonderland with texturescapes of surreal mysticism and unknowable horrors lurking in shadowy valleys where the gods fear to tread. The fairy tales are what is real to me. The hallucination is the so-called facts and data and numberlands and laws and dogmas and theories and all the walls of timidity that the models of causality impose. Follow your heart into dreamland. There are texturescapes waiting to be explored that go beyond your wildest hallucinations. Thanks for watching.